Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Business Spotlight interview series. Today it is my great pleasure to be joined by Sandra Corkin, founder and managing director of Oasis Travel here in Northern Ireland. Sandra, delighted you could join us. How are you today?
I'm very well indeed, Richard. Thank you very much.
Good, great. Why don't you take a few minutes and share with us who you are, what you do, and for how long you've been doing it?
Yes, okay. Well, as you say, my name is Sandra Corkin, and I started Oasis Travel with the financial backing of my dad in 1984. So next year we'll be celebrating 40 years in business. So travel was always something that I really loved. So when I left school at 16, I got a job in a travel agency straight away. And then my dad gave me the financial backing to open when I was 21.
Fantastic. That's awesome. So, if I understand it correctly, you started with a small shop in Lisburn,
That's right. Yes.
where I lived for a few years when we first married, with two employees, and now you've got like seven
That's
shops
right.
across the province with what? How
That's
many
right.
employees now?
So we have seven shops opening, seven shops open, and we're opening a branch in Hillsborough. I actually had a branch there before several years ago, so we're reopening it this year. So it will be open by the end of December, and we'll have just over 60 employees.
Fantastic. That's an awesome story. So let's hear a wee bit about that story and that journey. So who is your ideal customer? And I guess it's anybody who wants to travel anywhere.
Well, there's anybody who wants to travel, but we spend a lot of time and money traveling ourselves. So we really like to inspire people. So our ideal customer is somebody that comes with us with a dream, and we try to make that dream come true, sort of using our own experiences and recommendations. And also we like to add value to it. I mean, we have special rates with airlines, special deals with hotels. So we like to add value to what people are wanting, but we really like to inspire people, and we really love to turn dreams into realities. So anybody that's celebrating a special occasion, a birthday, that big trip every year, these bucket list destinations, we really like to make those come true for people.
Fantastic. What a brilliant strapline, turning dreams into realities. That's brilliant.
Yeah,
So,
But holidays are dreams, and I think
yeah.
no matter where you listen to conversations and hairdressers and pubs, wherever you are, people are always talking about holidays. So it is a really big thing, and I think particularly for people from Northern Ireland, people really love their holidays, and when they're spending the amount of money that they are, we like to make sure that things are right.
Brilliant, brilliant. So, Sandra, what's been your biggest learning since becoming a business owner?
I think, and I know it sounds like a bit corny, but it's to take the time to work on the business rather than in it, because for so many years I was involved in the day to day, everything that was going on in the business. And it really took several years for me to understand that sometimes I had to take a step back, and I had to plan, and I had to decide what direction the business was going in, and what we wanted to concentrate and what we wanted to sell. At the beginning we were all things to all people, and then as time went on, we really realized that to set ourselves apart from everybody else, we had to specialize. So we started looking at niche markets like cruise and like high-end holidays, and it was only then that was stepping back a bit that I got these ideas of different directions that the business needed to go in, and I realized that a lot of times that I have my best ideas maybe when I'm driving along or getting ready in the morning. It's not always whenever you're sitting in the office. So it's to take that time just out of the every day-to-day running of the business.
That's a fantastic share, and it actually aligns very well with what Action Coach try to help business owners do, because so many business owners we find are in that sort of hamster wheel of being in the depths of the business that they don't have time to work on their business.
That's right.
So
And it's so
that's a
easy
great
to
share.
say. It's so easy to say, I don't have time, and I don't have time to do this. But I think actually it was maybe whenever we started years ago working with investors and people that, I realized the importance of it, and it really, really has been so beneficial. So
Fantastic. So when you were growing up as a young lass, is this something that you always wanted to do?
Yeah, well, I always liked the glamour of travel, and my mum and dad always took good holidays, and I was always interested to hear about them whenever they came back. And I do remember whenever I came out of school, going into the local travel agents and picking up brochures and looking through these brochures and thinking, look, these are places that I want to go to. But initially, I really wanted to be an air stewardess, and of course,
Yeah.
back
Yeah.
back in the day, you had to be 19 and probably a certain height, but it was just, I think, the glamour and the uniform. So I got a job in travel when I was 16 because I didn't stay and do my or A levels. I went to a local grammar school, but always wanted to get out working. And I got a job just to give me enough time then to give me a bit of experience. And I thought I would be a stewardess, but then that was 40 something years ago, and I just stuck with actually being a travel agent.
Fantastic. I can't believe it was 40 years ago, but we'll come back to that. So what's been the biggest issue that you've had to overcome in those 40 years of business?
Yeah, well, for me, it's been sort of some very personal things. I think whenever my dad set the business up for me in 1984, I said, well, I don't know anything about running a business. And he said, well, just you get out there and sell holidays and I'll do everything else. And then sadly, he died in 1989 and I was just sort of 26. So I think it was sort of continuing on without him and thinking, well, I have no idea how to run a business. How can I do this? And realizing that when you're in your 20s you're still young and there's so many things that you don't know. And then just after that my brother came into the business and he came in as our financial director, and then sadly he died just before COVID. So I think
Oh
the
no.
challenges for me have been very personal because it's been dealing with the loss, and particularly the loss of a person who would be your mentor and who you could really trust, and you know
Sure.
and then having to go back to kind of being on your own and sort of saying, look, you really need to start trusting yourself and believing in yourself more. But that for me has been very challenging and very difficult. And
Sure.
of
Sure.
course the COVID times, which for the first time we actually had to take financial loans to keep running the business because of the massive losses. So
Sure.
it was completely outside my comfort zone, but
Yeah.
dealt with so many things in the past, like we had talked about, like 9/11, ice clouds, things that external things that have a real impact on the travel business.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
none of these had such a financial impact. But COVID was just dreadful. So dealing with that too.
Yeah, and so few people, I guess, even experience what we have all experienced coming through COVID,
That's
like
right.
a pandemic. How many times does that happen?
I
Uh,
know. And so out of the blue, nobody was prepared for it. I mean, my brother was really into sort of the risk management and what you need to do. And we used to always think of things, what will we do if this happens? But a global pandemic, no, we definitely weren't prepared for that. And the
yeah,
fact that it would take so long for people to travel again, it's okay having no business for months, but then when this started to go into years, and we
sure.
wanted to keep our staff and wanted to look after people, but as time went on it was getting increasingly more difficult. So
So
just
you've obviously weathered that horrendous storm,
yeah,
and you're opening an eighth office.
we are,
That's a
yes.
fantastic story.
Yeah, so actually then whenever we come back, it was a challenge because a lot of people left the travel industry because while the world shut down at that time, I think we had 14,000 people with future travel plans, but with no money coming in, but we still had to pay staff to deal with those.
Yeah, yeah,
So we were working harder than we'd ever worked before. And then to continually make changes for people that would ultimately also be cancelled, to have to seek refunds, it meant that a team of people had to work very hard to do that because we couldn't keep 50 something people employed. We furloughed most people and with a small team that just continually worked. And of course, I was one of them. And I think that people then trusted us and knew that we were doing our best for every single booking. So we've
yeah.
now had our busiest year yet. So I'm really, really grateful for that. But I do
Fantastic.
think it's the trust that you build with your customers and the fact that we were always on the other end of the phone, even though the world was technically closed, we were still in work. I live within walking distance of the office, so it was much easier for me to be here and deal with things than to work from home. But people knew we were here and we were trying our best for them.
Well, what a testimony to yourself and Oasis Travel to have not just weathered that storm, but come through it, survived, and are growing and had your best year ever. That's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. So what have you learned about yourself in this journey?
Yeah, well, probably to trust myself, because I think when I left school, I left school without any academic qualifications. And, whenever you go anywhere, people would say, well, initially, well, what qualifications have you? And, when you say none, you do not really believe in yourself. So I think it's just that belief now. I really have learned to trust, when I would say to somebody before, I just trust my gut feeling, I would think, well, that's a silly thing to say, because, but more, as I've got older and, the business has grown, I think that's more and more important, something that just doesn't feel right. And for some things, I suppose, your gut feeling's enough. You mightn't just need those qualifications. So for me, it's definitely self-belief.
Very good, very good. Well, it's interesting you talk about that gut feeling, because in talking to so many business owners, that term comes up so much about trusting your gut and about trusting that internal feeling and about having self-belief. So those are all great shares. So coming back to the business then, what has been the most surprising aspect of owning your own business?
I think for me, whenever I look back, the amount of time and passion that you need to dedicate to that business. So for me, it would be impossible to own a business and say, right, my working hours are Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. It has just become such a huge part of my life. And I don't really ever switch off. I love traveling in my spare time, but even when I'm traveling, I'm looking at places that I know that we're going to sell, or I look at places that I think are going to excite our customers. So I just think it's the fact that you can switch off, very, very little, and the amount of time that you've got to dedicate to the business. So it really becomes a huge part of your life. And I think most business owners would probably say the same thing. It's not a job, it's your life.
I was going to say it's fantastic to love what you do and do what you love.
Yes, I think so. And I think for anybody in their business, if they don't love it, and if they're in it just for the money, that wouldn't be. I think you've got to really run your business from your heart as well, and you've got to really love what you're doing. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great sharing. I'm sure our community is just going to glean lots of nuggets here as you share, Sandra. So you mentioned your father, you've mentioned your brother, and who else would inspire you in business?
Well, I suppose I get my inspiration from sort of looking at sort of worldwide travel companies and how they have coped and how they have dealt with changes. I mean, travel is something that's always changing. And when I think of whenever I started in business, what it was like, handwriting air tickets, anybody going on a cruise, it would have been such a small percentage of your business, because that was seen for the wealthy people. So it's just I look at how businesses and how the travel business in particular has changed, and really get my inspiration from that. Like, it's just wonderful now. It's no longer people going away for 1 week once a year. People are traveling all the time. And I suppose the internet gives people access to so much information. So, we use that a lot too in our business. But, we try to personalize everything we do, and we try to sell from, what we know is really good, rather than, looking at that heap of information. We try to extract what is really important, and what is good.
Sure, good. And in terms of motivation, you're very motivated, you love what you do, you've been at this since your teenage years. But is there anything that you do on like a daily basis or a weekly basis? Or are there favorite books you turn to, or a podcast you listen to for motivation?
I'm absolutely hopeless with reading books. I really am. I get to a couple of chapters and then I forget what the book was about. I'm hopeless with reading. I do read some motivational books, but my quote for the day actually is always a Bible verse, because I think that it brings me back to basics.
Yeah.
Because I know that people will say, look, you can do everything yourself and you have the ability to do things. But sometimes I think we all need that bit of extra help. And
Of course.
for me, I definitely believe it comes from a higher being. So
Yeah.
I always start my day with, maybe after my brother died, one of the girls in work, her mother bought me this lovely little book of inspirational quotes, and I read one of those in the morning, and I think it does help. It's very grounding and helps me through my day.
Fantastic. And I hope you don't mind me asking, do you have a quote there for today?
That I read this morning. Not just quite to hand, but
Okay,
yeah.
no problem. No, I used to have one as well. It was like an inspirational quotes calendar,
Uh-huh,
Bible
uh-huh.
verses and things like that, and I
Yeah,
used to have it
it's
on my
great, isn't
desk.
it? I just
But,
think it kind of reminds you that maybe sometimes you need a bit of help outside what you can do yourself.
oh, of course, yeah, totally, totally. So, what does the future look like for Oasis Travel, for Sandra yourself, and what do you think are the main challenges going forward?
Yeah. So the future, well, I suppose that every really dark cloud has a silver lining. And after my brother died, my son came in to help out, and he has ended up staying in the business, and I'm really grateful for that. He was finishing a business degree at Queen's University, and then
Super.
that moved to online. So he came in just to help us out with the day-to-day calls. So he has stayed, and he has been doing some projects, like he's done a great one for virtual reality, where you can come into some of our offices, put a headset on, and be transformed onto a cruise ship, which really sets us apart from our competitors when it comes to selling. So
Fantastic.
I think he will definitely take a more active part in the business going forward, and we'll probably have a bit of a change of roles here. And I
Yeah.
suppose it's always keeping up to the changes in travel, because there's destinations that become fashionable, destinations that go out of fashion, types of travel. We've definitely seen cruise now become almost 40% of our business. But even within that sector, cruising now, we're looking at luxury small ships, we're looking at river cruises, we're looking at yachts. So it's keeping up to those changes and trying to make sure that you're a bit of ahead of the curve, and you know what the next thing is.
And isn't it fantastic that the cruise ships are now coming to Belfast?
Oh, do you know, it's amazing, and what they bring to Belfast in terms of the revenue for businesses here is amazing. And
Oh, totally.
it's usually American passengers, and they just love coming to Northern Ireland. So it's great, because sometimes whenever they come off ships, we go down whenever the ships are in, and we take staff down as part of their training, and we get speaking to
Yes.
some of the passengers, but they all love coming into Northern Ireland, which is
Oh,
just in
totally. And
time.
I
Yes.
remember years ago, as we said earlier, having traveled for years from being a teenager as well, you always
Yeah.
used to see cruise ships all over the world, but they
Yeah.
never used to come to Belfast.
Yes,
And
that's right.
now they're like queuing up.
I know it's great to see it. It's just wonderful, yes. And then of course all the different excursions that they do whenever they're here, and that
Yeah.
all real good help to the local economy. So it's just wonderful to see it. It's great.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fantastic. So, what would you say to someone who wanted to start their own business or was thinking about going into business for themselves?
Well, I would say to choose a business that you have a passion for, as we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
to choose a business that you love and have a passion for. I said earlier, I don't believe that anybody that just goes into a business, if the motivation is just for making money, I wouldn't recommend it. I think you've got to choose something that you really love. You spend so much of your time working on or in your business that if you don't love it, it would be a big mistake. So something that you really have a passion for would be my advice.
Super advice. Super advice. So, if we could roll back the clock, which we all wish we could do, especially with when I used to have hair. What would be the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old Sandra?
Yeah. Probably to have more belief and ask more questions. I mean, when I started in 1984, I actually can't think of any other, just off the top of my head, any other or many other female-owned travel agency. It was a very male-dominated business. And whenever we used to go to meetings, I was afraid to ask questions. I was afraid that I would sound stupid. But I would say to myself, please don't be afraid to ask those questions. You know, no question is stupid. You know, you're always learning, and you know, just have belief in yourself, but don't be afraid to ask those questions.
Fantastic advice. Yeah, totally. No, there's no stupid question, I was always told.
That's right.
You know,
And surrounding yourself with the right people too is important. You know,
yeah.
I think it's really important to choose the people that you're working with wisely. And if you choose people that, you know, are, you know, that bring something to the business, and that have the passion and drive themselves, it really helps on a daily basis. So I like to surround myself with people who really believe in the business and who also love what they're doing. And that really gives you a boost every day. But also that they can sort of challenge things and aren't afraid to speak out if they think that something's not right. But their heart's in the business, and that's the most important thing for me.
Brilliant, brilliant. Look, Sandra, really appreciate you spending time with us today, sharing your journey, your wisdom and advice to our community. And I wish you every success with opening the new branch in Hillsborough, and maybe some more after that to come.
Who knows? Who knows? But thanks very much, Richard. Thanks for the opportunity. I
Oh,
appreciate it.
you're most welcome. Thank you.
Bye bye now.
Bye.